do not win in Pittsburgh. It does not matter. They could trot in the best team they've had since they've been back, and they will lose in Pittsburgh. The circumstances do not matter. I mean, you could take the 85 Bears, put them in Browns uniforms, parade them into Heinz Field, and they will lose. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. Which is what we talked a week ago. I was spinning that optimistically. That the Browns always lose in Pittsburgh. They always lose on opening day. Now we combine 2 losses into one. It's like having a 50% off coupon. It only costs us 1 game instead of 2. So this is a good thing. So you sort of kill 2 of those automatic losses with 1 stone. But the point being, I just. Logically, I see your point. I see where you're going, but no. I mean, no. This is the Browns do not have a chance. This is going to be an ugly start. These first 3 games in general are going to be hideous to watch. And if this were in Cleveland, maybe you could argue that, and I'd be able to climb on board with a better chance to win. But no, not in Pittsburgh, not at Heinz Field. No.
Well, there we go. Now we got that on the table right away before we even continue with the rest of this conversation. By the way, on a side note, talking about Browns history and things they do and don't do, I don't know if you heard me earlier when I mentioned, but first Browns tomorrow, the anniversary of the first Browns game. In history was on September 6th. So, an anniversary weekend, and maybe they get off the schneid. Look, I know, and you're thinking I'm nuts because I'm always the optimist, but I really do. I give them a chance. I don't know if they're gonna pull it off. I don't know how. I mean, maybe they go there and maybe a chance means they only get beat by a touchdown or 10 points. I don't know, but part of me with the Browns, and I don't have high expectations. I said I think this is at best a 6 or 7 win season. I've already kind of said that, but it'll be so much easier to really know the real realities of what we're looking at after Sunday, after you see them play for real, because
and this is what we've been waiting for. This is what we sort of waited through the preseason, pointing to let's wait and see what they look like when it's full speed, when everybody's going full board. Let's see what we've got. Let's see the hand we've been dealt. And the other nice thing is you'll get to see, perhaps, depending on recent history, perhaps the only time all season, you will get to see an entirely healthy team take the field for the Browns. I mean, typically with their history with injuries, by week 2, they're dinged up and a very different team than they were in week 1. So you will see them as strong as they will be, health-wise, first stringers on the field. This is basically as good as you're going to get with the Browns, at least in terms of first players on the field. This is going to be it. So I mean, this is a key step. You're right. We'll see. Really, we will finally stop talking about the preseason and say, okay, this is the team we have. This is the hand we've got.
That's funny you bring that up. I was going to mention it later on in the show when we got more into the X's and O's, but the injury report, that is the first time I could remember. When I looked at it, I'm like, none? Everybody practiced?
Yeah.
Really? Everybody? I mean, how rare is that for even the first week of the season held out or hurt or out
I think
for
you'd
the
have to go back
already?
to that first game in 1946. I think that was probably the last.
I mean, you're right when you say whatever the best of what they can be is as far as health-wise, they've got the full complement of it this weekend. And you know what? Me and Dan Wismar and I, when we were talking about the Buckeyes this week, we mentioned Coach Beamer from Virginia Tech, and one of the things he had said about being a big believer that in football, any team, they all improve throughout the season, but you make your biggest improvement between week 1 and week 2 because that's when you hit reality and then you start to realize the things you need to start fixing and tweaking because now you're finally playing things that matter, whether it's college or pro or whatever. And I kind of believe in that too. We were talking about it the other day. Regardless of what the ceiling is for the Browns this weekend, that's another reason why I look to weeks 1 and week 2 because you get a baseline in week 1, and it's not an easy place going to Pittsburgh and getting a baseline. Then you come home and you got New Orleans and Drew Brees waiting for you. So tough one, but you'll get at least we'll get an early glimpse of what kind of heart this team's got and what kind of fight they got.
Yeah, and I think we need to see that. I think there's a lot of conjecture about this team and who's going to fit where and how they're going to use certain players and how the defense matches up, how certain pieces of this offense. There's so many question marks that you're not going to get answers in the preseason, no matter how long the starters. It's acceptable information, acceptable answers. So this will be interesting for no other reason that we will know exactly what we have by the time Sunday afternoon 4:00 rolls around. we will have a much better sense. Even for those of us who think we know exactly how this is going to play out, we'll have a much clearer idea of what the next 16 weeks are going to hold.
And I really do think we do have a pretty good idea offensively of what I think the Browns, because you can't be much worse. I think they will be marginally better offensively than people are crediting, but that's still a very small improvement is what I'm talking about. But defense is more what I can't wait to see when they really are blitzing, like you said, when they've got everybody healthy, no more Joe's not here, this guy's not here, that guy's not here. Let's see if they are what they're advertised, because if they are, that side of the ball alone changes the outlook on the season a bit, because then you go, okay, we do have a defense to lean on and build off of.
Well, if it does, sure. I think that would be hypothetically a reason for optimism. But as we talked about the last couple of weeks, I don't think the defense looked quite as good as we anticipated they would in the preseason. So, and again, not to read too much into that because it is the preseason. But yeah, we'll know. Again, we will know if this defense is suspect and is not as good as we think. We will know it immediately. I mean, there's still a chance to improve, but we will know very, very quickly on Sunday, and not even by the end of the game. Like I said, by midstream, 2:30 Sunday afternoon, we're going to know if this defense is even capable of propping the team up.
Absolutely. And now, unlike every other piece of media in the world that covers anything that has to do with the Browns, I'm not going to inundate this conversation with questions about Manziel, but I do want to mention a couple of things as we're bringing these things up. What do you think? Seriously, I mean, you and I have seen a lot with this team, and you've seen more than I. And what do you really think when you hear, how long is the leash going to be on Brian Hoyer? Because I mean, that's something that I take issue with, regardless of who you thought the guy was. We talked about it throughout the preseason and looking ahead that whoever is the guy, they have to stay the guy for a while. And I think people tried to use it when they talked about and there we go. I knew there was a problem with the connection because we lost JK right there. So as we're waiting for him, but people tried to use those words kind of against him, and they still. I don't know if the Browns are going to attempt any type of, as Jonathan Knight here rejoins the conversation. You back with me, buddy?
Yes. How appropriate. I mean, the last thing I heard was Manziel, and then nothing. Is that an omen, or what? I don't know what to say about that. 48 hours for the first game.
Maybe that is an omen. When we were joking before the show, I texted JK and I said, no, you know what the total Cleveland thing is to start the season? Is Hoyer goes to Pittsburgh, wins the game, however he wins it, drags him by their 1 point, by the teeth, the defense does it, whatever. He comes home a hero, goes down in week 2, Manziel comes in, goes 0-15 down the stretch. And so now, not only do you still wonder if Brian Hoyer's as good as advertised, but now you've lost all the Manziel momentum and hype as well, and now we're drafting somebody at the top of the next round next. But anyways, we're going to hope that that's not the way things play out here. But I was mentioning before you got disconnected that, a lot of the talk, and people tried to use Coach Pettin's words against him when he initially said, hey, we want everybody looking over their shoulder. We don't want anybody comfortable with the job. And he finally had that thrown in his face about the quarterback, where he had to step out last week and clarify that and go, you got to be different when it comes to the quarterback. How much of that? And I think there's a difference. I've seen a difference in Coach Pettin's mindset, and I think the front office, and definitely Jimmy Haslam, he appears to me, he's going to go down with his own ship. He's going to fall on his own sword. If he's going to lose, he's going to lose his way. He likes Hoyer. He went with him as the guy to start. How long do you think that whole leash and short leash, I mean, really, how long? Let's say you go 0-3 in the first 3 games, but they're all good competitive games, and you just lose at the end to better teams. Do you give in to the panic if you're Mike? I wouldn't, but do you think Mike Pettin gives in and, we're 0-3, let's start the kid? I mean, obviously, if you're getting blown out of the water, that's one thing, but isn't that going to be one of the most interesting things to watch as the season plays out?
Yeah, to me, yes. That is the most interesting thing, the most significant thing we're going to see in these first 3 games, more so than whether they win or lose. I think, as we've said, they're really starting off behind the 8 ball. This is just such a tough start for a team in their position. And that's the way the script looks like it's being written, right? That they're going to lose these first three, probably not close. They're going to be overwhelmed. They're going to be clearly mismatched and overmatched. They're going to be 0-3 going into the bye week, and that's when the change will happen, right? I mean, that just seems to be the way this is scripted. That's what everyone is sort of expecting, and has been really since Manziel was drafted and the schedule was released. We sort of looked at that and said, yep, here's how it's going to go. But the way you painted that scenario, I mean, there is the possibility. What if it's clearly not Hoyer's fault? What if he goes out and has 3 really nice games and he statistically performs well, but the team loses, and maybe even the team looks good, but just doesn't have it to pull it out. Or God forbid they win one of these 3. I don't know. I certainly, if they do look terrible and then Hoyer looks terrible, then yeah, I mean, Manziel, that to me is the line of demarcation to begin the Manziel era. But I think too, I get the feeling, and I don't know if this is just the media creating this or if perhaps this is reality, but I get that sense that Manziel will be incorporated. You will see him in flashes in these first 3 games. Not necessarily like you're alternating quarterbacks, like one series he'll go in and play and Hoyer will sit. Not that necessarily, but some sort of trickery, some sort of trick play type of thing, that you will get him onto the field once or twice a game and sort of scratch that itch and give everybody what they want. And maybe that, and I get the sense that will happen at some point in these first 3 games. I also get the sense that Pettin doesn't want to do that, but he will to alleviate this pressure and give Hoyer a little bit of a longer leash, as you said. So I think everybody's aware of it, and it will not unfold quite the way we think. That being said, I don't know that I would be surprised if we come out to week 5 when the Browns come back for their 4th game. I'd be surprised if by then Manziel isn't taking 10 or more snaps or even starting at that point. I think then you will see some drastic measures if they do go, as we kind of expect they will, 0-3.
You know what? All the coaches, all their comments after practice yesterday, it was the first time that I really got the sense of what you just said about Manziel coming in and because at first I wasn't sure, because I'm of the philosophy not to do that, and I get it that it's like a wildcat but different, and Shanahan specified that, hey, this is a quarterback, this isn't a running back or a wide receiver that we're putting back there. I get that part of it, but I still, and they asked him, and this is where I know it's going to happen, because you listen to Shanahan talk and he goes, I guess you could say that if I was calling the plays and then coach just leaned over and said, hey, I'm calling the next 10 plays and then I'm going to give it back to you, that would probably throw me out of my rhythm. But that's kind of what I have no choice but to do, because he's the boss. And if that's what Brian has to do, if that's what Johnny has to do, that's what they're going to go out and do. They don't have any choice in that. And as I heard that, I'm going, okay, well, clearly you've had this conversation with them already, I think, because I could feel it, that it is coming. But I'm of that philosophy that I think that throws, if you're going to do, then just shake it up. Then just put the kid out there from the beginning. Let him learn in the fire. If you feel that because, that's I saw Mary Kay wrote it up this morning, and it is a lot pushing that agenda, because, of course, they want to write about him. They want to see him play. I'm telling you, coaches got to love the number of questions they get about the quarterback that is not to be facing this year, But so I get all that. But I don't like it, because I really do believe that if you think you need to jumpstart the offense, then just jumpstart the whole thing. Like I relief pitcher, like we're going to bring him in and then we're going to go back to Hoyer again. How does that work?
Yeah, I think that is a sort of a desperation move. You're right. At least, and Shanahan too, I'm sure. There is, as there is in any coach, there is that confidence, in some cases overconfidence, but it's a natural part of the job. You cannot become a coach in the NFL without thinking that everything you do is going to work. So there is that sense that, no, we're not going to need a spark. We're not going to need to do anything silly with Manziel, because what we've got in mind, the game plan, what we're going to do with Hoyer is going to work. We've got this figured out. So that's the mentality they have going in. I think, again, once the rubber hits the road here, and they start playing real games against real opponents, putting forth their real efforts, then we will know. And I think we will. I think they will, and we will to some extent. I think we're going to get an awakening that this offense is just not. Hoyer, as you said, regardless of who plays quarterback, this offense is just not ready for prime time. It is not going to be able to compete against these teams that they're playing, not just in the first